giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. I am so excited to be here. So I know I say this often, we're going to try and keep this one short and sweet, but we really and truly are. You know, I have had a reoccurring conversation in the last couple of weeks, and it was how much things can change in the last 6 months. For me, I've been recording all of the stats every single week for just over 6 months. So when I go back and I look at where I was 6 months ago, what I had for an email list 6 months ago, what I had for podcast downloads, what I had for, sales, revenue, conversations that were taking place on social follows, all of the different sorts of metrics that were in my business. When I look back 6 months ago, it doesn't look anything like it did today, or like what it does today. We have done multiples of what we were doing. I'm going to talk about my email list for a minute because I do my best to keep things real. So at the beginning of October, we were just under 300 people on the email list. And I go through and I scrub my list. If you unsubscribe, I delete you right out of the program so that I don't have people that aren't paying attention in there. I go through and I remove those that are hard bouncing out more than a couple of times. I go through and make sure that everybody that's on my list wants to be there. Now, when I fast forward that 6 months later, keeping in mind, I had been building the coaching business for a couple of years to get to that 300. And I remember when I hit 300, I was excited. But now, just 6 months later, we broke 1,500. 6 months ago, the podcast was at 5,000 downloads. We're now over 25,000 downloads, marching our way towards 30,000 downloads. 6 months ago, I couldn't have imagined doing what we're doing. Actually, that's not true. I could imagine it, but on so many levels, I couldn't believe it was possible. Yeah, I'm here and I tell you all the time, don't let fear hold you back. And I am here to tell you that we all have those messages that play over and over in our head. There's a saying where it says we overestimate what we can do in a day, but underestimate what we can do in a year. And that is so true. We're in April, we're coming up on May, and right after that, we're into summer holidays. And then after that, we start making our way into the fall and then the Christmas holidays. And without fail, September, October, November, because August, September, the kids are headed back to school. October, we're all trying to get our feet under us. November, we're into holiday season. December, it's full out. In January, we're all hungover, but then it's wave season again. And so the cycle starts over. But the thing is that over these next 6 months, you have a summer window in there. And there's a lot of travel advisors, small business owners, but definitely travel advisors who take the foot off the gas. The kids are out of school. Got to go explore. Got to go to the lake for a couple of weeks. And I'm not saying you can't do that. After all, you're in business so that you can have the lifestyle that you want. What I am saying, however, is that when you look forward to these next 6 months, I want you to imagine yourself 6 months from now, looking back. I want you to know what it is that you did to get you to where you are. Because see, if you take your foot off the gas for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. When you get to be 6 months from now, you can't look back and go, well, what happened? I must have a marketing problem. I must need to do more of this, more of that. You might actually have a business problem. See, building a business takes consistency. And if you're new, it can be a slow grind. I've been selling travel for almost 20 years. And not to be a little braggadocious, but I'm pretty darn good at it. Earlier today of recording this episode, I'm actually in the process of selling my son's vehicle. I love selling. I love the whole art of negotiation. When they say, what's your bottom dollar? I say, what's your offer? Well, what's your bottom? What's your offer? Never be the one to give the first number. I love to sell. But yet, if I take my foot off the gas and I'm not bringing in new subscribers, I'm not bringing in new clients, constantly feeding the pipeline. Well, the thing with a funnel is that when stuff pours in the top, if you're not doing anything to capture it and to keep building it up, it's going to pour right out the bottom. And it will pour out the bottom with nothing else coming in the top. When you look back, I want you to look back at the last 6 months. What have you done that got you to here? I have a coach that says what got you here won't get you there. And I tell you, 6 months ago, actually it was closer to about 8 months ago, 9 months ago, I started making some significant changes in my business. Recording data, top of the list. Top of the list for sure. I started tracking what I was doing. I started taking the emotion out of it and going solely based on data. And the difference that made has been monumental. See, when you don't feel like doing something, it's really easy to say, I'll get to that tomorrow. If you're an avid listener, you might notice this podcast is going out late on Wednesday evening, whereas lately it's been coming out Tuesday mornings. It will start coming out on Wednesdays. We're returning to our Wednesday time slot. But the goal will be to get it back to first thing in the morning. Because even as it is, when I was getting ready, trying to muster up the energy to come record this, because I'm not going to lie, it's hard when you don't have that energy to really show up and perk up to do this. Getting sick kind of took the wind out of me. I've still got some episodes I need to edit that are already recorded. I just haven't got there yet. But as I was sitting on the couch telling my husband at 8:15 at night, I need to go record this. He's like, it's okay. And I said, you know what? No, I was on a call earlier today and somebody was there and they were telling me that I've been listening to your podcast for 2 months and I knew I needed to sign up. Here's the thing. If I decided I didn't want to do this, or I'd just get it next week or the week after, which I did when the podcast was brand new and nobody was listening to it, I'd take a couple of months gap at a time. But now I've shown up every single week for almost an entire year. And that's how we've gone from almost nobody knowing we're here to tipping up on nearly 1,000 people a week downloading episodes. That's insane to think that there is 1,000 people a week downloading. I'm going to chase a squirrel for a second. I went to that retreat a couple of weeks ago here, and we were reverse engineering people's websites. I discovered I am getting nearly 8,000 hits a month on my website. I thought my website was just there. Nobody was seeing it. Please don't go look at it until like a couple of weeks from now. We are very quickly, very adamantly reworking the entire website. I am so excited for when it launches. I can't wait for you to see it then. But in the meantime, I get it. It's a little fugly. Like it is fugly. But we're getting there. But you know what? If we went by just whether or not we have the energy rather than whether or not we made a commitment, if we went by whether or not we feel like it, really, will anybody notice? Will anybody even know if I don't show up? Here's the scoop. You will. 6 months from now, when you look back and say, why don't I have any sales? Why is my business not growing? Why is my business shrinking? Maybe you picked up a second job. Maybe you thought, I'm never going to make it. I'm going to double down on my regular job. That's okay. But then know that you are no longer building a travel business. I want you to imagine yourself 6 months from today. Where are you? What do you want to have accomplished? What do you want to have possible? Do you want to be in the same job that you're working now? I know in talking to a lot of travel advisors that listen to the podcast, maybe you're one of them, that you're having to work that job because your travel business just isn't where you want it to be. Do you want to be in the same position 6 months from now that you are today? If your business is thriving and everything's going amazing, then great. Continue doing it. But if you're not achieving the success you want to be achieving, then let's call this your reminder that every day matters. Ed Milet in The Power of One More talks about what it means to just do one more thing. Schedule one more social media post each day. Schedule one more appointment. Show up one more time. He actually also talks, I was listening to him on a podcast. I think it was actually one of his. And as he was saying, under that power of one more, it's also the power of 1% more. You don't have to take your business from 0 to 100 in one day. It's not going to happen. You just have to do 1% more today than you did yesterday, and 1% more tomorrow than you did today. Just imagine what could be possible if every day you did 1% more than you did yesterday. By doing 1% more, just think what's going to happen 6 months from now. On that podcast, he also talked about the fact that if you work out, you're not going to see the results tomorrow. You're going to see them 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now. But if you stop working out today, you're not going to notice that tomorrow. You're going to notice it 3 weeks from tomorrow. You're going to notice it 3 months from tomorrow. The same is true in your business. What you're doing today, you're not going to notice tomorrow. You're not going to notice it the day after or the day after that, but you're going to notice it 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 months from now. If you want off the feast and famine roller coaster that often is a travel business, I can't encourage you enough to have a set schedule that you show up for. And I'm not saying it has to be Monday through Friday, 9 till 10 a.m., because I understand that we have shift workers. I understand that we have stay-at-home parents. I understand that there are so many other things. But what I am saying is that you will show up for 15 minutes a day to do X, Y, or Z task. What is it that you're willing to commit to in order to change your business and your life for 6 months from now? Because as much as I set goals for myself, as much as I set a vision for what I want, the revenues I am generating, again, I am not saying this to be braggadocious. I am saying this as a fact. But the revenues I am generating over the course of my businesses, that I am generating this week, next week, the week after, was almost unfathomable 6 months ago. On the weekend, I posted, I think it was in my story. Yeah, it was in my stories. I did a video and I said, I am geeking out because on Saturday I sat down. I go by The Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. It's a fabulous book. Cannot recommend it enough, particularly for those that work in more of a feast and famine commission-based type business. But I have multiple bank accounts. One is for tech because I'm going to have things that I have to invest in down the road. I have one that all of the money funnels into and then gets dispersed out of it. I send money to my personal account over in another bank altogether. I have obviously the credit card, but I have a tax account. Yes, I pay my taxes to a separate bank account every single time that I sit down and do up the accounting and pay myself. And on the weekend, my excitement for how big my tax account is getting was crazy. See, in past years, I resented that tax account. I resented that somebody else thought they were entitled to what I had earned. My relationship with money has changed so much in these last 6 months. My relationship with my business has changed so much in these last 6 months. My relationship with myself has changed. Probably at this point, safe to say, shout out to my therapist. But it is a reality. You have to acknowledge those things that are potentially not even related to your business that are holding you back. For some, it is the uncertainty of what would it mean if I didn't have that job. And so instead of giving full out into the business while still working the job, they pull back on the business because the job is security. It's what they've always known. But then they resent the job because it's taking away from the business. We have to find the balance between the two. Just imagine for a moment when you're looking 6 months from today and now you're looking back. Do you want to look back and think, wow, look how much I've accomplished? I might not have hit my goals, but that's okay. Look what I did. I showed up in my business. I showed up and I played the game. Or do you want to be 6 months from now looking back and going, crap, I sat on the bench and I complained. I sat on the bench and I made a whole list of excuses as to why this wasn't going to be possible. Which one do you want to pick? Because here's the scoop. You get to pick. Even if you don't hit the goals that you set. I want for you to know that you showed up to play the game, that you showed up and gave it your best shot. I don't want you 6 months from now looking back, thinking about this episode and thinking, crap, I don't even know if I got out of the locker room. We all have an opportunity. The difference is whether or not we raise our hand and join the game. I get it. It can be wildly overwhelming. Part of what I do is to help travel advisors be able to grow their business. We have a free Facebook group that you can join us. We do trainings in there from time to time. But most importantly, I want to make sure you know about our upcoming boot camp. Go to artofsellingtravel.com/bootcamp to register. You're going to get all the details. We're going to send you emails with all of the links. It is a 5-day boot camp coming up at the end of April, all in honor of Travel Advisor Appreciation Day. We are going to be laying out the red carpet. We have 5 jam-packed days filled with content for you. We're going to be talking about what does it mean to get leads? What do leads look like? We're going to be talking all things lead generation. We're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about profitability. We're going to be talking about business operations and mindset. I am super excited for this boot camp, and I genuinely hope to see you there. Come and join us. Come hang out with us. It does not cost you anything except for your time. You can find that at artofsellingtravel.com/bootcamp. I will link it up in the show notes. But until next week, happy selling.